Hey folks, today we're going to be talking about Civilization 7, and that's because over the weekend we got confirmation that on the 20th of August we're going to get a gameplay showcase on the official Firaxis Twitch channel. So we are going to get to see how the gameplay looks, how it plays. I wonder if we'll get told the civilizations that are coming, and I wonder if we'll get some art of like how the leaders look, things like that, how the units are going to look on the map, all those kind of things. And with that announcement, I just thought we'd have a quick video today just talking about Civilization 7, what I want it to bring from Civilization 6, and really just have a chat in the comments down below. What do you want to see? What do you not want to see? I know some things are going to be very popular, some things are going to be very unpopular from the kind of like the gameplay and how the game looked in Civilization 6. But as we know, with each iteration of Civ, they do make changes. They do like to mix up the formula a little bit. It's always Civilization, but they do little changes, test things out, especially with the DLC. If you've played Civilization for a while, you'll know that things that are in the DLC are generally things that will be part of the base game of the next installment. It's where they kind of test out ideas and see if players enjoy them. It's quite a good way to do it, I think. So we'll see what's coming in Civ 7. Now, overall, Civ 6, I will be honest, I didn't play it as much as Civ 5, and that's not really a slight on Civ 6. The main thing is that I just got into Paradox games after about a year of Civ being out, and I just enjoy the style of Paradox games that little bit more than Civ. I have recently gone back to Civ to kind of get back into it, brush up my knowledge a bit for when Civ 7 is coming out. But overall, I think I enjoyed Civ 6. I'm going to be controversial and say that I didn't mind the graphical art style. In fact, I really enjoy how the map looks. I think it's probably the best Civ map they've done, and not necessarily just because it's the most recent, so the graphics can be better. I actually really enjoy the, not like cartoonish graphics, but like the stylized way the map looks. It doesn't look quite realistic, and it doesn't look quite cartoony. Obviously, that does lead us on to the Civ leaders. Again, I'm going to be controversial and say I didn't mind how they look, to be honest. I know a lot of people didn't like the cartoony look of the leaders, but I don't know, like I didn't mind it too much. Would I be super mad if they went back to more realistic looking in Civ 7? Probably not. I did like them in the earlier games looking more realistic. Civ is a kind of serious game, but it definitely is like one tier below a Paradox game or one of these grand strategy games or 4X games, however you want to describe it, that are trying to be more realistic. Like Civ is kind of realistic, but I really look at it more as a history sandbox where you can do whatever you want. You have realistic nations and what they do and units, but the actual history that you play out is nothing like real life, really. But, you know, overall is a fantastic game, and as I said, looking forward to the next one. Now, outside of the leaders, there's actually the civilizations themselves, and if you've listened to any of my videos, you've probably heard this a million times, and that is that I hope they move away from, like, railroading your playstyle with each nation. I get why they do it, so England has a set way you should really play them, France, you've got Germany, you've got the Aztecs, you've got America. All of them have a certain way you should pretty much play them with the bonus they have, the special unit they have, the special building, the integrated bonus the nation has and then the leader has. It really does push you into a certain play style. And I don't mind it too much. I get why they do it. They want you to kind of not recreate how historically they grew, but kind of give you that little bit of flavor with each nation rather than being just cookie cutters. They're all the same. They want to have a little bit of flavor to each nation. But I think the problem is that it does kind of railroad you into certain playstyles with certain nations. Or even if you're thinking like, oh, in this game I want to play a cultural victory, well, I wouldn't pick England or one of the other nations that are good at certain other things. I'd go in there and think, okay, this nation is really good at culture, so why wouldn't I choose them to do a culture victory? If you're doing something like the space race, you'd pick a nation that is very good at production. If you're trying to go for a military, you'd probably go for the Mongols, someone like that, somebody who has a lot of bonuses around doing that kind of play style. And like I say, I know why they do this, but I wonder if it would be good to kind of get away from it a little bit. Maybe you could have them set like that in a certain way, but then almost have like a, not build your own nation, but if you played Millennia, which was a recent release by Paradox, they had nations that were just really the names of them, and they did have small bonuses based on what they did historically. Very loosely, I wouldn't say it was super accurate. And then on top of that, you could build out the other bonuses that you wanted, so you could pick certain things, kind of make up your nation like a jigsaw puzzle, and then you'd play the game as that nation. Now, it was a very different game to Civ. It was kind of Civ-esque, but it wasn't really a kind of like carbon copy of Civilization. But I wonder if they did bring something like that in instead. So you could play as England, but you wouldn't be railroaded into playing it the same way every time. And I know some of you will say in the comments, well, you didn't have to play it that way. And no, you didn't. You could just ignore the play style that was kind of designed around it. I will say, if you want to only play as England, you only want to play as the Romans, I know there are people that want to do that. I think having some variety in it, so you're not just playing towards the same bonuses all the time, I think would be an improvement. As I say, I'm not sure how they do it. Maybe they'd let you pick and choose bonuses. Maybe they just have flat bonuses. And then depending on what you did on your campaign, maybe it would build bonuses towards those areas. So you become what you do in the game. So if you do a lot of warfare, you would get a lot more like warfare bonuses. If you did a lot of trade, maybe you get trade-related bonuses. If you did a lot of diplomacy, maybe just empire building and didn't really go to war, maybe you could get some diplomacy-focused bonuses. So it isn't like you'd start with a certain amount of bonuses. It is more as you progress through the ages of the game, that is where your bonuses will just gradually build up depending on how you actually played the game. I think that would be a cool way to go around it, but maybe, as I said, you could have some historical ones, maybe some small bonuses just to give a little bit of flavor as well. Now, the things that came along with Civ 6, what else did I like? The policy card system, I really liked that. It was a cool way to change how you played the game depending on the circumstances you got into. So this is kind of the flip side of what I was just saying about the Civs being locked into a playstyle. With the policy card system, this was a really good way to alter how you played depending on what was happening whilst you were playing. So maybe you were just building up your empire, you picked cards that kind of helped you just expand, get settlers quicker, get more production, maybe expand out your religion better or something like that. And then maybe you filled up your island or your continent, and then you came up against other nations, and then you could switch out the cards. If you've never played it, you could switch out the cards, get rid of those ones, bring in some new ones, maybe bring in all the military-focused ones or something like that. Maybe even change your government to give you more of those certain kind of card styles. And then that would allow you to change how you carried on playing your country as you progress through the campaign. And then you could obviously change back or pick up some other ones. Maybe you wanted to build a bunch of wonders, so you just pick up all the wonder bonus cards and put them into your realm. So overall, I like this. I'm not sure it will come back in the same style, but I did actually really like that in Civ 6. The next one I picked out is City States. Again, I liked how these worked. I think the bonuses were pretty good. I think a few too many of them were built around builder improvements a little bit too much. I have done a few campaigns recently where there were like 4 of the 6 were all just improvements on what your builder could build. So, I don't know, maybe they could lower a few of those so there weren't quite as many. But overall, I think the city-states work quite well. I liked how you could build up your envoys. It did get a little bit kind of gamified. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I think the actual envoy system was good, but it ended up just being, you know, whack-a-mole, basically. Put an envoy here, here, here. Oh, well, somebody else put one in there. I'll put another one in there to kind of beat them by one. I wonder if they could bring some kind of reputation system into it instead. It could build into the same kind of system where they could have these quests for you to do like they do now, but maybe you could build up this rep system. And I guess it's kind of the same as the envoy thing, but I don't know. After a while, let me know what you think in the comments down below. But I think the envoy system kind of got a little bit just whack-a-mole, especially once you got into the mid to late game. So I think that could do with a little bit of a change. The other thing I would bring to city-states is to actually allow them to grow into other civilizations. Now, I wouldn't want this to happen all the time, but I was recently playing a game where one of the city-states actually captured a settler. I think another nation had lost a settler to a barbarian, and then the city-state had defeated the barbarian and took the settler. So he was just walking around with this settler, and he was never going to use it. So obviously, I attacked him and took it, and then made peace with them 10 turns later. But I think it would be cool, especially in these weird examples where they pick up a settler from somewhere random. I think they should be able to actually use them, and maybe there could be some way to like promote them up into proper civilizations. Maybe as another player you could help them do that as well. Maybe you could kind of fund their settler system. I don't know how it would work, but maybe you could like vassalize them and have them spawn out into a proper civilization. This would be a cool way as well to get some of the smaller minor nations into the game. Maybe even nations that aren't probably going to be in the new game at launch, like something like Canada or something. You could have like Quebec as a city-state, and then through this system somehow they could spawn and become actually Canada and then join the rest of you in your campaign. I think that would be pretty cool. It would give a little bit more kind of fun to having the city-states around and maybe keeping them on your side and kind of helping them along a little bit. And you could even use it kind of offensively as well. If you met a city-state that was near an enemy of yours, you could maybe fund them and try get them to promote into a proper realm, and then they would help you maybe in the war or something like that, which they do already, but this would be like another tier on top of that. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. I think city-states are great as they are, but I think another level on top of them, I think, would be a cool inclusion as well, especially as the game is civilization and you're starting from nothing and building up. It would be cool if the other city-states could do that as well. The next thing is religion. I think overall religion was pretty good. I think it is maybe potentially a little bit too good if you found them. Now, I know that's the whole point of it, is that you found them, you get to select the bonuses, and then you get the benefit of doing that, putting all that investment in, especially in the early game. But I wonder if they could change it, that you get the bonus for founding religion, but maybe if you don't end up being the actual largest realm of that religion, that country could then take over and get some kind of bonus for being the largest civilization of that religion. Maybe they could get a holy site to replace the founding one or something like that. I think it would be cool to kind of bring that kind of bonus in though. So you do get the cool bonuses for founding religions. We've all played it where we've missed out on a religion and we kind of like, oh no, maybe I'll just restart or something like that. I'm sure most of you don't, but I've definitely thought that a few times. When I've missed founding a religion, I've thought, do you know what, I might just restart the game and just play again. So it would be cool if you could have some way to kind of usurp the founder of a religion as like the primary religious country of that religion. I don't know. Let me know what you think. And that, I think, covers most of the base game changes, or the major systems at least. So I want to talk about the DLC. The first one is Rise and Fall. I'm going to say this is probably one of the best DLCs they ever released. The loyalty system is one of the best additions to Civilization. It was such a game changer. It just changes how you build your civilizations. I know previously I used to just send them out on ships, found cities everywhere on the map, just spread out as quick as I can, as far as I can. It didn't really matter. Yeah, I'm going to forward settle on you. You're going to forward settle on me. Let's just go. Let's just see what happens. Whereas with this loyalty system, you actually have to think about where you're going to settle. Do you like turtle out slowly? Do you try still get out there early, found your city first, and then if they found a city near you, you could potentially flip their city over? I think it just brought a lot more gameplay to actually expanding your realm. And that is, to be honest, the bit of Civ that I enjoy the most. The early game, expanding, colonizing, all those kind of things. I kind of get bored of Civ, if I'm honest, once we get down to the kind of stagnation of everything is kind of set up and you're just playing the culture game, the religion game, or the construction, you know, doing the space race game. I find the settling in early game my favorite part of the game, and this just brought that cool other mechanic to it where you had to think about it a little bit more, and then there were cool nation bonuses and things like that where you could use this offensively to try flip other cities into your control. So overall, awesome. I really like this. It was a fantastic addition. Governors, I'm not too sure about it. This was part of Rise and Fall. I think governors are okay, but I think they'll probably just get rolled into some other system in the future. It is a little bit micromanagey. If you're like me, you generally just placed them and then forgot about them, picked up the bonuses. You could kind of move them around to maximize them. I'll be honest, 9 times out of 10, I just didn't bother. The only one I ever moved around was the diplomat lady, because she could affect loyalty in other cities, and additionally a bonus in the city she was in, I believe, on top of the usual one. But overall, I think governors are okay, but a lot of the bonuses were very situational, and like I say, I just kind of left them where they were most of the time, unless I was really getting into a game. But overall, I think Rise and Fall was fantastic. I would hope the loyalty system will come back in Civ 7. I'd be amazed if it doesn't, to be honest. And the last one we really got, I know we got the season pass and things like that, but this was the last major DLC, and that was Gathering Storm and Global Warming. It was okay. I don't think it was amazing. I think they will bring this back in some version. I'm not too sure how I thought about it in Civ 6, to be honest. It was pretty good. It was cool to kind of see how global warming would get out of control. Very apt at the moment in our world. But I don't know. I think too much of it was out of your control. And I know that's kind of sensible in a way. Like, one nation, even in the real world, couldn't change global warming that much. I don't know. I think it just took too much out of the player hands. And I know you could build like the seawalls and things like that to counteract it, but you could also just get hit with it really quick from other nations quickly industrializing if you didn't realize. So I don't know. I think it will come back, but I think they will rework it somewhat. Maybe again, it'll come in a later DLC so they can balance out other things first and then decide what they want to do with it. Outside of that, there was the World Congress that came in this DLC. Again, I think the World Congress was okay. I think it was, again, like some of the other systems, a little too gamified by players. If you just built up the diplomatic favor, which, to be honest, most nations would give you as well in trade relatively easily, it could be too easy to kind of not cheat with this system because you could just vote on things the same as everyone else. But there were certain combinations of votes and things like that that if you won them, it was just such a crazy bonus to get that it was just way better than almost any other system in the game at some points, with some of the discounts you could get on like unit building or even like your culture spread and things like that. So I think the system is cool. I think it does start too early in the game. I think this should start maybe later on, maybe when a certain amount of civs have been discovered. I don't believe that's the case in the game. I think it always happens at a certain time. I think it's when a certain age unlocks. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I probably should have looked into it, but I think it should start later on, and I don't know how they could change it, but I just think it needs some kind of rework. Like I say, it was too easy to just save up your diplomatic favor and then pick things when it was really helpful to your nation. I mean, obviously the AI could do that as well, but we all know the AI, it never really did that correctly. Whereas a player, you could just really focus certain votes your way, especially later game if you saved up all your favor, and then it could really just swing the game in your favor depending on what you chose. So overall, I think pretty good. I think it will get a rework though. And with that, I think that's the main features that came in the DLC. I'm sure I've forgotten something. You'll let me know in the comments down below if I have. So after that, what would I actually like to see in Civ 7 that maybe hasn't been in Civ 6 and earlier ones? Well, I'm going to say the first one actually was in Civ, and a lot of people I think don't realize this was ever in the game. I think it was just in Civ 1 and Civ 2. And that is where you could get civil wars in civilizations. So I think this would happen if you had, say, Greece, and it had, let's say, 5 to 6 cities. If you went in and took Athens off them, it would actually split Greece into Greece and Sparta, and then they would just be 2 civilizations. This was great. I always loved it when it happened. It didn't happen every time, but it happened, I think, on a dice roll. When you took a capital, it could happen. And I don't know. I think this is really cool. And again, like the city-states, this is a way where they could bring in some of these smaller nations. Maybe if you had England and you took London, maybe it would split into England and Scotland, something along those lines. I just think it was a cool mechanic, and it also helped you kind of later game. If you were thinking you had to take somebody out, really thought you might not be able to defeat all of them, you could go for their capital, just really rush it, and then just hope, you know, that dice roll was with you, and their realm would split in half, and then you could obviously fight 2 people, and that would kind of help you out in your war against them and trying to defeat them. I thought this was cool. I think there was other ways you could do this. Maybe if you had like negative culture, or maybe if your loyalty was low enough, you could spawn civil wars. Because at the moment they become free cities and then they generally join another nation. I think it would be cool if they became free cities and then they could spawn as a splinter of the main civilization they came from. I think this would be awesome to bring back, and I'm kind of surprised it never really did. Unless I missed it in one of the later ones, but I don't remember it being in the game more recently than the second game. And it fits in so well with the eras of civilizations. There's been so many civil wars in so many countries. And then on top of that, I wonder if the game team have played a lot of Old World. I'm sure they have. One of the old lead developers, or he might even have been the game director, I think, of Civ 5. He went off and made a game called Old World, if you've not seen it. It is very Civ 5 looking, if you do look it up. It's a fantastic game. I'd definitely say pick it up. If you're wanting a Civ fix, but something different to Civilization, definitely give it a try. I think the mechanics are really cool. How you move units around, you have a pool of moves, and then that is shared between all your units. So it's a lot more strategic about what you're going to move each turn, because you can't move everything. So it is a lot more like, okay, I need to move this army over here. I'm not going to have enough moves to move this other army at all. I think that would be an awesome system to bring into Civ. I kind of feel like they won't, though, just to how close Old World is to Civ. So that is unfortunate, but I think it would be a cool mechanic. One of the best things they brought in that game. The other thing that came in that is events and proper dynasties. Would you want to have some Crusader Kings or EU4 style mechanics? Not like full event chains or anything like that, but something to build on top of goody huts. So you get those little events with goody huts. Maybe you could have something a little bit more built out from that. Not as much as Old World or Crusader Kings or something, but something in the middle where you get these little events that can kind of throw a wrench in the works, kind of mix up your gameplay as you're playing. Maybe you could have a revolution out of nowhere and that change your government type, and then you had to go with that or try to change yourself back to the other government type you wanted. Something along those lines. I don't think they will go full event style. And then the other thing that that game has is proper dynasties. If you played Crusader Kings, EU4, EU5 sounds like we're going to have a little bit more dynasty kind of modes and things like that with an actual dynasty tree and things. If you haven't seen that, got stealth announced recently. I don't think we'll get this just because Civilization is so synonymous with you're a Civ, you have Queen Elizabeth as your ruler, and that's like just what you have. They don't have these dynasties of like she dies, somebody else takes over. I think that would be a major departure for Civilization, and I can't see them doing it. I just don't think they will, unfortunately. It could kind of build into what I was saying earlier, where you start as a more simplistic template of a nation, and then depending on how you play, that is where you picked up bonuses. They could even kind of use that in the dynasty system, where you're not really choosing your dynasty, like what bonuses they have. And then maybe even if you were able to change it through the game, maybe your dynasty like lagged behind. So if you changed your nation to a certain kind of gameplay. From that, maybe exploration into warfare. Maybe your dynasty would lag a little bit behind, so they'd still be giving you bonuses for exploration. And then as you kind of progress further in warfare, that is where their bonuses would change on a curve kind of behind what you're doing. I don't know. I'm not too sure, to be honest. That's the more kind of out there idea that I had. I was just thinking about it because a lot of the games like this do have that kind of dynasty system now. So as I said, I don't think it'll come in. It would be interesting if they did, but I don't see it happening. And with that, guys, that is the end of my rambling Let's Talk About Civilization video. As I said, I really wanted to do this because the Civ 7 gameplay showcase is on the 20th of August. I'll, of course, be doing a video on the channel about that, so make sure you hit like, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I'm covering Project Caesar, aka EU5, unofficially announced at the moment. They're doing some dev diaries. I'm covering those on the channel, and I've covered Crusader Kings 3 on the channel for quite a while now, and there's a lot going on in that game as well. Unlanded gameplay coming soon, which is fantastic. And I also cover other historical strategy games as well. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. What would you like to see? What did you enjoy in the earlier Civ games? Maybe what are your more out there ideas that you'd like to see in Civ 7? But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next one.